I'm Oliver Gellis, CMO at OrthoFi, and we are thrilled to have another episode of our Expert Insight webinar series, where we invite some of the industry's top minds and with very insightful messages. And as usual, we have another great speaker today, who is going to be sharing some content that he presented at our Nexus meeting. Hopefully, those who joined it had a wonderful time. For those of you that have never been to a Nexus, I highly recommend joining. It is one of the most valuable courses and meetings that a lot of practices have all year. So we are thrilled again to have some great content today. My guest today is Dino Watt, who is the team transformational specialist and founder and CEO of Our Ripple Effect. He's been called one of the most exciting business relationship trainers in the world. He's an award-winning mentor. He's authored 5 books. He's a dynamic speaker, as you will soon find out. And if you haven't heard him already, he's an international trainer. And what he does is he focuses on contributing positivity and productivity to every business and person that he interacts with. He does this by making it simple to understand and easy to use. So, as a high performance practice advisor, Dino's been frequently referred to as the Tony Robbins of private practices. And I absolutely believe that his goal is to help business leaders create more passion, productivity, and profit in all areas of their lives. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Dino Watt.
Wow. Thanks. I appreciate that, Oliver. It's been a long journey between you and I, hasn't it? It's been like, what, decade? Good 10 years?
It has. And actually, before you get going, I was remiss. I needed to have one more bit of housekeeping, which is for those of you that have questions, and we invite you to have lots of questions, please put your questions in the Q&A. So when you look down, instead of the chat box, you should see in your bottom menu Q&A. We will be fielding those questions, and then at the end, we will be basically reviewing them with Dino and giving Dino a chance to answer all of your questions. If we don't get to all of the questions, we will then be responding to you offline and getting those answers to you. But please use that Q&A, and we will field those questions. But we're ready for you, Dino.
Well, I will say, though, I do have a caveat. The only questions I won't answer are about my JCPenney catalog modeling days. That's off limits. We're not allowed to talk about that stuff. That's a sore point for me. That's okay. There should be laughter there. Hopefully you're laughing about that. Hey, everybody. Good morning. I'm excited to have you here and to be here with all of you. I was honored when I was asked to give the speech, the same speech I gave at Nexus. I will duplicate what Oliver said. I've been able to go to Nexus a few times. And it's just, number one, it's kind of like a reunion because you get to meet some really cool people that you haven't seen in a while. But number two, just the amount of great information that they have on the stage is amazing. And I want to share with you a good part of what I talked about at the Nexus last year, because one of the things that I find in offices so often is this frustration that can happen when it comes to new things and incorporating new things in our office, whether it be OrthoFi, whether it be OrthoBank, whether it be any new process or program. It can be stressful. And so I kind of made my title obviously in jest, right? There's an old saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again. But oftentimes I know the frustration of my own life where I've tried something new and different, especially if it took me a lot of effort, put a lot of courage out there to do it, and it failed, that I kind of like, well, that was a nice try. I need to move on. But I want to give you some ideas of why it would be a good idea for you not to do that. Before we get started, just to give you a little, oops, we don't need that music. To get a little about me, I do a lot of what I call team transformation experiences, not just consulting. I don't really consider myself a consultant because I don't come in with my set way of doing things. I'm very specific about each office. And so about 1.5 years ago, I was able to create a program and an opportunity for me not just to hit one office a month or a week. Last year, I did 96 trips in the year. So that averages about 2 trips a week, which is a lot. And so I like my wife a lot. I like spending time with her. We have kids that are grown, so I don't really have to worry about missing baseball games or anything like that. But I do enjoy spending time with my wife. And people ask me all the time, does she go with me when I travel? And my answer always is yes, to the cool places. Last year, we spent a month in Australia and New Zealand. She was there with me. We went to Hawaii. She was there with me. She doesn't necessarily go to, the Pocatello, Idaho's. No offense to Pocatello, Idaho. But what I did is I realized I wanted to be home more often. So I decided to try something new. And this goes into our conversation today. I thought, what could I do to create a scenario where I'm not just going to one office a week or even 2 offices a week, because there's only one Dino and I can't scale myself or my business that way. So I was having a conversation with my wife, and as often happens, she is inspired by a lot of things. And she says, hey, what if you created a virtual event, kind of like something like you might have seen a Tony Robbins event where we have everybody virtual in, every office gets to come together. They're not on individual screens, but the offices themselves are together in the screen. And we could do a whole day training with the entire team. And that was the team transformation experience. And it has the 2023 kickoff here because it was something we tried for the first time in January of 2023. And we had 53 offices in that event. There are 2 from England, 1 from Canada, and the rest were from the United States. Well, hopefully you can do the math on that. For me, that meant, oh, wait, I can connect with as many offices in one day virtually as I can if I went out every single week of the year. Well, the first one, it was tough. It was a bit of a challenge. We had a lot of technical things. If you saw there was a big studio we were in. We had it was just a lot of demographics we had to go through, a lot of production we had to go through. And it would have been very easy for me at the end to say, you know what, that was fun. But what I did is I got back together with my team with all the mistakes and all the challenges that were happening, because if you can imagine, there's a lot of technical things. We got together and we said, how can we make this even better? Let's try it again. We did it again 6 months later in June, and then again in January of 2024. And now we've got it dialed into a way that we're going to do this now every single January. And I'm telling you, it could have been it wasn't incredibly lucrative the first time. It was fine, but I'm a business owner. I've got to be able to make money and to be able to afford what I need to do with my team. And so it has to make money. Things don't always make money, nor are they always successful the first time out. Just to go back to our history together with Oliver, I started in this industry, I believe it was 2 years or a year after OrthoFi actually started. I remember sitting in an office with one of my clients, Dr. Rob Sheffield, and he had told me, he was telling me about this thing called OrthoFi that he was just putting into his office and he was investing in. And I thought that was amazing. But I know that over the last 10 years, there have been challenges and trials that it could have been very easy for OrthoFi to say, you know what, let's pack it in. We got other ways to make money. Let's do this. But they kept going at it. Not every idea is going to be brilliant at the very beginning. This next thing that I was able to do is say, okay, well, if I can do that, what can I do also for specifically office managers? And so we created the Ignite Study Club, which is the first study club ever in orthodontics. There's one in dental, but doesn't really focus a lot on orthodontics. So we decided, and when I say we, I talk about me and I have a partner in it. Her name is Allison Hale. She's a 20-year vet office manager that we said, let's create a study club specifically for office managers where they can get the support they need every month. And we're growing that business with them instead of just being individual consulting, and you don't have to join my consulting in order to do it. So the point is that there's always, and by the way, this is a new thing. We just launched it at AAO a couple of weeks ago. My hope, dream, and focus is it's going to be awesome because I think it serves a great service for people. The thing is that's real is it's tough. It's challenging. It's going to take a lot of work up front. So when we go to our theme for today, talking about if at first you don't succeed, try again. Whatever happens, and I expect there to be some mistakes happening with Ignite. I expect there to be some rocky roads, if you will. That's okay. I'm dedicated to the end result. I'm dedicated to what I want out of it, which is the ability to help a lot of offices at once, to have a group coaching situation where tons of office managers can work together and support one another and not feel so alone and isolated like they often do in offices because it's such a unique position in an office. I know there's going to be some challenges, but I'm going into it realizing, okay, I'm dedicated to the outcome. I'm not focusing on the challenges that are going to come. So as we're going through this whole process, I want you to think about the things in your own life that you are starting out at right now. That could be, I talk a lot about your personal life too, so just know I'm going to go there. That could be your budgeting of your own personal money. That could be your relationship. That could be a new friendship. That could be a new software and a new program like OrthoFi. You want to go into it. What's the outcome I'm looking for? Expecting there's probably going to be some bumps in the road. The benefit that you have of doing something like an OrthoFi, and really anything in life, is there's people out there to support you if you're willing to raise your hand and ask for the help. But most people try to grin and bear it, try to get through it, try to look for the perfection the first time. But you have plenty of help out there. OrthoFi has an amazing support system. I have plenty of offices that are on OrthoFi. I suggest offices go on OrthoFi because I know how much it can help. But that's everything in life, right? Like you really can find anything on YouTube. You can Google and YouTube pretty much anything you want to figure out how to do, and you'll be able to do it. You just have to be willing to know it's going to be rough. You're not going to figure it out the first time, and don't get frustrated. With that being said, let's see if this goes here. Okay. I want to show you a little bit of my history here. So this is me. This is me back in the day. Yep, that's me with my braces on. I was a bit of a nerd, if you must say. I was the musical theater geek. That was me. Before I took this picture, every single one of my pictures would never show my teeth because I had a supernumerary. The front two teeth were totally crossed in front of each other, and my two cuspids would not descend down. And I had a name like Dino in the 70s. I had divorced parents just recently. It was a really rough time for me, but braces changed my life. And so the reason why I do what I do, my why, is to reverse the direction of divorce, addiction, and suicide amongst private practice owners, because they gave me a gift. You gave me a gift as being a healthcare provider, as being somebody who was willing to help make my smile better. And you did that in my own life. So I say this often. I want you to take this for what it's worth. I come to you from the future. You see, at this time in my life, my parents had just divorced a couple of years prior. Every month that the payment was supposed to come out, my parents would fight over who was supposed to make that payment every single month. So, when they say to kids, hey, it's not your fault your parents are fighting. Yes, it was. It was totally my fault that my parents were fighting. My dad believed that I would just grow into my mouth. He didn't think I needed braces. As a matter of fact, my dad is going through some cancer issues right now. I was just talking about a month ago, and we were talking about some history in our life. And he brought this up. He brought up the time I got braces. Like, yeah, you were the only one in the family who got braces. And that was really unique to me. And here's why. I was the third child out of 4. So when I got my braces, I was the only person who got my braces. I got my first non-hand-me-down. This tie I'm wearing right here, hand-me-down from my brother. This this shirt I'm wearing is a hand-me-down from my other brother. I never had anything new in my life until I got braces. This is why I was the worst patient in the world for you, as I had my braces on for 4 years. That's right. I ate everything chewy, gooey, icky, whatever. I ate it because braces gave me attention. They made me feel special. I say this to you to help enroll you into the idea that it's worth it. The struggle you might face with a patient, it's worth it. The struggle you might face with a new software, it's worth it. Because I come to you from the future, I'm standing in front of you right now, and I have an amazing career that I do in an industry that I absolutely love. Even though if you had asked me, 15 years ago, I would have no idea that I'd be in this industry. I so appreciate what you do. And this is coming from the future, a little Dino saying thank you for what you do. Now, I also was a huge fan of this era of my life. For those of you that know, this was the 80s. And in 1986, I was able to look like that and go to my very first school dance. I was able to get excited about it because of these movies. Every one of these movies taught me something about dances at school. Number one, most likely people were going to decorate that gymnasium into a beautiful crepe paper and lights amazing scene, right? And number two, everyone at one point was going to break out into a choreographed dance number. Remember that? How they'd all just like, oh, suddenly Patrick Swayze's like, oh, we're all going to dance together. Yay. And Teen Wolf and all of them would have some weird dance that they would start jumping on. Now, of course, not Breakfast Club, but a lot of them. Now, I got super excited for a couple of reasons. Number one, I was going to see my gymnasium not be the gross, stinky place. Number two, we we're all going to break out into a dance choreograph number. But number three was that my girlfriend of 2 whole weeks, Angela Sandoval, was going to be there. Yeah, I was super excited. When I do say girlfriend, of course, I was 14. You saw what I looked like there. Let's go back. That's what I looked like back then. I know that I looked a little. Oh, sorry. Let me go back here. Sorry. I looked a little geeky. I get it, but I got dressed up in my best Z Cavaricci jeans. My brothers, I would say. My stepdad's actually at the time cool little jacket with shoulder pads, and I put on about a half a bottle of Drakkar Noir cologne. Now, if you are not from that era, you don't understand the power of Drakkar Noir. But if you are from that era, you probably just sensed Drakkar Noir in your nose just for that second. Well, I was excited to go and go to this dance. I walk into the room, the gymnasium, and kind of like big 80s fashion, right? I grab both door handles and get ready to swing them open. And I go and I swing open the doors. And of course, there's no crepe paper, there's no lights. All there is a balloon hanging off of, hanging off of, let me turn that down, hanging off of either end of the gymnasium on the basketball hoops. How many of you guys remember that? I remember walking into the gymnasium and that was the length, the depth of the decorations. Well, I am now completely disappointed. My 80s movies, my John Hughes movies fantasy is starting to fade away. Not only is there no decorations, but no one's dancing. They're not choreographed, not choreographed dancing. They're not dancing. All of the ladies are lined up on the wall on one side and all the guys lined up on another. And I am very much starting to sweat, starting to think, wait, this is not what I was told was going to happen. And then I saw her. I saw Angela. I saw her across the room, and I know this didn't happen in real life, but in my own mind's eye, like a spotlight came on right over her head, and a wind machine started to blow in her direction. And for those of you that remember, she stepped into that light kind of looking like Kelly LeBrock from Weird Science, right? Like she was looking rad. She was more dressed than Kelly. She had some black nylon stirrup pants. She was wearing those clear jelly shoes. She had this rayon shirt with these shoulder pads that went up to her ears, so we were matching. And she had this amazing this hair that was in a spiral perm banana clip pulled all the way back with aquanetted bangs about 3 inches high from her head. She's looking rad. And I swear in that moment, as if the DJ knew, he threw on the song Lady in Red. Now, that song to me has a lot of emotion. If I hear it to this day, I go back to this moment. Because in that moment, something unique, something cool happened. All of the girls took themselves off of the wall, and all of the guys peeled themselves off the wall, and everybody started to couple up. And not only did this couple up, I walked up to Angela, and she walked up to me, and we didn't even have to speak. We just knew this was going to be our song. And we assumed the 7th grade shuffle dancing position. Her hands on my shoulders, my hands on her waist, and we left room for the spirit. And I did the only move I knew, which was this one right here. That's not true. I did know this one too, because I practiced with my older brother. That's right. Yeah, I know. I hope you're all laughing and pretty impressed right now, even though I can't hear you. I hope so. The fact of the matter is that we were in 7th grade. So what did we not do while we were doing this 2 steps? We didn't look at each other at all. Not at all. We're not looking at each other at all. But as I'm not looking at her and I'm doing my little move, I look around and I see the other kids around us, and I notice something very interesting. They're not just dancing. All the kids in our immediate vicinity are kissing. And they're not just kissing like you kiss your mom goodbye kissing, right? They are the foreign kind kissing. They are risky business kissing. And I start to sweat even more. A bead of sweat stops dropping down my back because I had never kissed a girl before in my life. I know you're surprised and shocked. You saw that picture, right? You were surprised. But I thought maybe this is my big 80s movie moment. So as we're doing our two-step, I finally catch eyes with Angela and I lean in just a little bit and she leans in too. And we keep leaning in closer and closer. And suddenly, just like in the movies, our lips are touching and we are kissing. And you know what? I really like it. Like there are tingling sensations happening around my body that I'm like, whoa, this is awesome. So I think, hey, cool. Maybe if that worked, I can go to the next level. So I decide in that moment to go for it. I open my mouth just a little bit, and she does too. And suddenly we are in Fast Times at Ridgemont High with our tongues flailing around and wild abandon. And there we are swapping spit back and forth. And it's disgusting. I'm suddenly realizing I can't believe people do this. And I wonder how long I have to do this because I feel like I'm about to drown in her spit. I look around and I see that no one else is coming up for air, but I can't handle it all that much. So what do? I pull back. I pull back just a little bit and she does too. And now we're really not looking at each other. We're looking at any place but each other possible. And then I see something. I see something that shouldn't be there. Out of the glimmer of one of the lights, I see there is still connected to us a shoestring line of spit, still connected between her mouth and my mouth, just swaying there, like Lady and the Tramp, but with spit. And I see it, she sees it, and I don't know what to do. So there's a principle in life. I want you to get this. The higher the emotion, the lower the IQ. Whenever we're in a high emotional state, we can't think clearly. So I'm very emotional. I don't know what to do. So I do the only thing I can think about doing is I take my hand off of her hip, I take it over to her mouth, wipe it off of her lip and onto her shoulder pad. She looks at me, I look at her, and I say the only two words I could think of in that moment. You're welcome. In a state of pure grace, the song Lady in Red starts to end. Angela drops her hands. I drop my hands. We kind of look at each other. She turns and immediately runs out to the quad, where on her way out there, she picks up her friend Tracy. I go back to where the guys are, and I don't say anything because I'm a guy. About 5 minutes later, Angela walks back in. I'm sorry, Tracy comes back in, and she tells me, hey, Angela, we'd like to talk to you in the quad. And I said, okay. So I go out to the quad. I'm following her. And when I'm about 10 feet away from Angela, as if she can feel my presence, she has her back to me, but she turns to me and she says the 10 words that are seared in my mind all these years later. And here is the whole point of this story. She says, Dino, we're moving too fast. We need to break up. I turn around. I go back into the gym. I go back to those doors that I was going to make my grand entrance just a few moments earlier. I walk through those doors, walk outside, and I walk 2.5 miles home. And the entire time, I think to myself, what a loser I am. I can't believe that I tried something, such a big deal trying something for the first time. Come on, Dino. And I'm talking about, how many of you ever had that never-ending story of soap opera in your head, of all the drama and all the things that you just tried and it went wrong, and so this means something about you? How many of you ever made meaning over some moment in your life? We all have. Every single one of us has. I took that moment, and I swear to you, on the way home, I will never kiss another girl again in my life. That was the worst thing ever. I can't believe I messed that up. I'm never kissing again. No, you can't convince me. And for a while, you probably couldn't convince me to kiss another girl. You see, how many of you have ever tried something, put yourself out there, really reached out there, and it failed miserably? In that moment, I had a choice. We all have choices to make. Maybe your moment wasn't your first kiss. Maybe your moment was that moment that you put yourself out there and you asked for that raise. And you're like, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to get that raise. And you were denied. Maybe it's that moment that in the meeting that you typically never really pay that much attention to and you don't really volunteer ideas, you finally did. You're like, you know what? I'm really passionate about that thing. I have an idea about this. And you put your hand up and you said, I have an idea. And it was not taken in that moment. Maybe it was rejected wholeheartedly. So you said, you know what? I'm never going to volunteer again. You see, our whole life is about making meaning. Our whole life is about finding the positive meaning as opposed to the negative meaning. Our minds totally mess with you. Our minds will mess with you on a continual basis. Our minds will tell you stories. I want you to know right now, you're sitting in a room where this is really important for you to understand. Only 20% of companies actually invest in their teams through continued education, consulting, or team building events. Even being here right now, knowing that your team is investing or thinking about investing in OrthoFi makes you part of the top echelon of all companies, not just ortho companies. That's important for you to understand. That's why I'm talking to you today, because I want you to understand that it's important for you to create more moments, even though they might not turn out well. I'm just going to give this to you as a gift. If you want this gift, you can screenshot this real fast. It's my book, The Practice RX. It's a free gift for everybody here. I never sell my book. I give it out to everybody, but I want you all to have an opportunity to see this book, use this book if you can in your own life, because in this book, I talk about how to overcome those moments of frustration, overcome those moments of failure, overcome those opportunities and challenges. That gives you do it. Why? Because the mind is so powerful. I talk a lot about this. If you haven't heard me speak before, I talk a lot about how powerful the mind is and how it stops us from doing all the things that we want to be doing in our life, because that little voice in your head. How many have had little voices in your head? Raise your hand if you have a little voice. You can do it. I can't see you, but I want you to do it anyway. Raise your hand if you have a little voice. If you're thinking to yourself right now, what little voice is he talking about? That's one of the little voices I'm talking about. We all got these little voices in our head. And you get to make a choice. Every single day when you wake up, you get to make a choice to come into work. Let me give you a little perspective. I talk about perspective a lot. I'm going to give you a perspective about your job. And however you feel about it, no matter how much you feel about it, what you love, you don't, whatever, we get it. There's challenges and everything. There is almost half of the world's population doesn't get to choose their job. Almost half of the world's population does not get an opportunity to choose their job. They wake up every single day. They're forced to go to work, and most of them without actually getting paid anything that actually gives them a livable wage. So no matter what you think about your job, no matter what you tell yourself about your job, just know that you have a choice. And I love the fact that you have a choice. I believe everybody has a choice. I get to travel around the country and see the choices that are being made on a continual basis. And what I've found is usually the choices come into certain spectrums, the spectrum of one side or the other. Usually you're going to have people who walk into the office either feeling something like this. Let me turn this up for you just a moment. Hopefully you can hear a little bit. I know we had some sound issues earlier. That song, you heard what happened there. You see those, the way they reacted? That's a bad day in the office. When you are somebody who has to when you feel so frustrated, you're going to climb across your desk and then go back and pick up your keyboard to beat somebody with it, that's a bad day. So that's one spectrum. I get that. I hope that's none of you. I hope none of you have ever had that day. Yes, there's had days been stressful, but hopefully you've never had that day. Hopefully, because the other side of the spectrum is this guy. Every single day, because I love my occupation. Every single day, But basically, it's the guy who walks in incredibly happy incredible. The guy that walks in here, the guy or gal, and you're like, hey, yo, chill out, right? Calm down. That's a totally different side of the spectrum. The idea is this, is that you get to make that choice. And when we make that choice, we need to, how many of you have had a bad day? Just raise your hand. How many of you have had a bad day before? Cool. Really? You've had a bad day, or have you had a couple of bad moments in the day that you milked all day long? Because as meaning-making machines that we are, we will often have something bad happen in the day. Maybe our dog pooped on our carpet, or our coffee was spilt. And we will milk that moment all day long. Oh, it started off bad, the rest of the day is over, and then you're going to go find people to commiserate with. That's the challenge. But see, you have to understand it's up to you to have one of the other. You're going to have either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. You're going to decide, hey, this isn't happening to me. This is happening for me. I don't have to go to work. I get to go to work. I don't have to have this conversation. I get to have this conversation. I don't have to learn this new software. I get to learn this new software. But if you don't, here's the stark difference between people that are either going to focus on the negative or the positive. The fixed mindset is always going to avoid the challenges. They're going to refuse to receive criticism or feedback. They're going to focus on only proving themselves right and not looking at other people's perspectives. They're going to feel threatened by other people's successes. They can't accept failures or mistakes. They look at it as something that means something about them. They shy away from unfamiliar things, and they believe that talent is a statistic. I love that one, because one thing that I have learned for sure, listen, I have dyslexia. I was not a great student. I barely graduated high school. And I promise you, the only reason I've been able to do what I've been able to do in my life is not because I have the talent for it. It's because I have been able to practice it. I have been willing to do the things that other people aren't willing to do. I've been willing to fail. I've been willing to look at this. And by the way, I did not grow up with this mindset. This is not a hereditary thing from my family in any way, shape, or form. I am the weirdo in my family. I don't know if you can tell that anyway, but I'm the weirdo. I have a completely different mindset. My mom, I love her to death. She's an amazing person, but she kind of has like an Eeyore attitude. If you know who Eeyore is from Winnie the Pooh. She has this type of mindset. I saw that and learned from that and said, okay, I want to view challenges as opportunities. When things don't go well or are challenging with OrthoFi or anything like that, make sure that you look at it as an opportunity. Oh, how can I learn? How can I grow? Here's one of the things that I know about OrthoFi after the years that I've been seeing them and promoting them and talking about them. Their growth has come from people who have found the opportunities and said, hey, what if we did this? What if we tried this? Hey, have you ever thought about changing that or looking into this? That's the only way they've been able to grow. It's somebody who embraces constructive feedback, somebody who focuses on the process and not just the results. Like I said, what am I trying to do? What's the outcome I want to get? I want to get to the end result, yes, but I'm going to see that this me failing here, it's going to help me get to here, get to here, get to here. I want to be at the outcome, but I know I have to go through the process in order to get there. It's being inspired by other people's successes. You see somebody else's success, and you're like, wow, that's so cool. I want to do that too. You learn and grow from failures. You're someone who's always trying to step outside your comfort zone. I have a whole training around the comfort zone because I believe it's one of the things that challenges us most. There is zero growth inside of your comfort zone, zero whatsoever. And yet so many people say, "What? I just don't really like doing that. I don't feel comfortable doing that." Cool. If you don't feel comfortable, then that means you're probably growing. Now, and then the last one is that they believe talent is ever improving, and it truly is. So what are you going to be? Are you going to be a fixed mindset person? Or are you going to be somebody who takes in the power of yet and not yet? This is so powerful for you. This hopefully will change your entire mindset. People look at the thing of saying, oh my gosh, I haven't gotten there. I don't have that. I don't understand that. But if you chose the power of yet, because the antidote from fear or failure or frustration is literally the idea of not yet. So when you look at anything in your life, I want you to use yet at the end of it to say, hey, you know what? I haven't mastered that yet. I haven't hit that goal yet. I don't know how to do that yet. All of the, you put yet on anything that you haven't been able to do yet. I haven't hit my weight goal yet. I haven't been able to save a lot of money yet. I haven't found the right person yet. I haven't been able to have a successful relationship yet. All of those things, you put those yet, it tells your brain, I'm getting there. I'm going through the process. I know there's the outcome I'm looking for, but I'm going through the process. I'm willing to. I failed at that thing today, but that just means I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't figured out the right way. There's that old, I'm sure many of you heard this, the old saying about, was it Einstein? Not Einstein. Edison, sorry, two E's. Edison, who with the light bulb, it took like 1,000 or 10,000 tries to figure out the light bulb, right? Every single one wasn't a failure. It was just an opportunity to go, oh, that's not how to do it. I'm going to try to continue on. Figure out how you can get to yet instead of, oh, I don't know this. Get to yet, and you will be much happier in your life. So with that being said, that was a lot. I know I dumped a lot on you. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got a lot out of that. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those questions. But my plea to you is this. It's very, very simple. Actually, it's too simple to say, I don't know how to do that, or that was frustrating, or I failed at that, and just give up and walk around. Luckily, I found my Princess Bride, got my 80s movie ending, and my wife allowed me to practice on her and figured out, hey, I'm not a great kisser yet. Whatever it is in your life, make sure that you're using the words yet to get to where you want to go. Thanks for letting me spend some time with y'all. I hope you enjoyed that.
Dino, that was amazing. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Really inspiring. Of course, your message is always so universal, not just for the practice, but for lives. And shoot, I took a lot of notes myself. We still have great opportunities for questions. So if you have questions, it's not too late. We did have a couple of questions. I wanted to start with one of my own, which is, a lot of this mindset shift is tough. And what do you think, in your experience, what typically is the biggest initial hesitation or friction to make this shift that you experience when you work with practices?
100% is comfort. For me, if there's one thing that I run up against over and over again, and we kind of say it as a cliche in our industry, where people's like, that's not how we've done things in the past. Of course, we're always evolving and changing, but people really stick to that and the comfort of that. It's why should I? What I don't understand why I can't just do what we were doing before. So I think it's comfort. I talk about a lot comfort zone in the sense of I consider the comfort zone like your couch. Your couch is literally designed to be comfortable. The couch that is really hard to get out of is usually the favorite couch because it's the most comfortable and it takes effort to get off of that couch. So there's this thing that everybody runs up against. It's the scientific word is perturbation. So let's just put it in this perspective. If you hadn't gone to the gym, I'll give you a personal example. I tore my meniscus in my knee. For many of you know that I love to dance, and I haven't been able to dance in, gosh, it's been 3 months now, almost 4 months. And it's really been frustrating. But anybody of you that can relate to not having gone to the gym in a while, once you go back to the gym and you work out, so you get a trainer or you just go and lift some weights, what typically happens 3 days after you start going back to the gym again? You are in pain. You're hurting. So you're in perturbation. Perturbation, the root word is to perturb. And what that is literally the scientific word. What it is for that moment when the coal in the ground is going to molecularly decide if it's going to push through that pain, that pressure, and become a diamond, or fall back and become sludge. And we do the same thing because we'll get to that perturbation. So let's just say I'm going to use, and all of you can correct me on this or not. I don't implement a lot in OrthoFi. I just suggest it because I know what the outcome is for it. But let's just say somebody brings OrthoFi into their office. And the first 2 months in the learning process, transferring everything over, there's some frustration. There's some ouches. There's some perturbation to where the office manager or the financial coordinator or the doctor is like, man, I don't know if this is worth it. I mean, how many people have gone to that place? I think a lot of people get to that place. It's the push through and be willing to deal with a little bit of the pain in order to get to the diamond, to get to the thing that you want. But that thing, it's not getting off the couch, because a lot of people will make that effort to get off the couch. It's the 3 days, it's the 2 months, it's the moment you hit that perturbation where there's a great book called the Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and he talks about this being your upper limit problems. You hit this upper limit challenge, and so you have pain, and we want to avoid pain. Our brains are literally, their only job is to keep us alive. And so let's go back to the gym analogy. You go 3 days, you're not just in pain, but you know, you've all done this. You've all done this. The pain and the little voice in your head is like, stop doing this. You're going to die. If this is pain, getting to the 6-pack abs or whatever you want is death. So that's why it's so hard for us to change that mindset, because we hit the thing that we know. And as soon as we get past that, we know it's going to be painful. Now, the truth of the matter is our brains are lying to us. It's not death. It's just a little more pain. But the more you go through and push through that pain, the more you have growth. And that's where true growth in life comes, is to be able to push through that just a little bit more.
Yeah, that
That was a
resonates
long.
well. I mean, every great transformational thing you do in your business, in your life, by definition, is going to have stretch
Yep.
and stretch, and hopefully not strain, right?
Mm-hmm.
But always stretch.
Yep.
And people on this call probably can source their experience with clinical solutions and all that. And so that absolutely resonates with me. So I've got a question from Jeannie Moreland out there.
Hi,
Jeannie's
Jeannie.
asking, how do you get a person to understand constructive criticism is not an attack to them personally?
Oh, great question. I actually use a framework. Thank you for the question, Jeannie. I have a framework and I use it all the time for crucial conversations. And basically, the framework is 4 steps. And it's necessary because what you're asking is the challenge. What I'm assuming you're asking is this: the challenge is you're coming to somebody with good intentions, like you just want to help them and grow. Let me back up for a moment. One of the biggest worries or challenges in our life is the fact that we are typically blamers, and most people are blamers. I talk about our staph infections in the office, like there's always a staph infection, not always. There's often staph infections, and a lot of people think about the bad attitude or the gossiper or stuff like that, right? I focus on the person who's the most blaming, who blames the most, because when you blame, you become lame. If you take the word blame, B-L-A-M-E, and you cut the B off and move it over, you got being lame. And I'm not talking about, dude, you're totally lame, right? It's lame as a lame animal. Lame animals can't move forward. And so lame animals, when they have anybody come to them, even if it's their owner, to help them, the natural instinct is to attack or defend. Well, we're all animals. And so when we're in blame mode, victim mode, passive victim mode, and somebody comes to me, Jeannie comes to somebody and says, hey, I want to help you out. I see you have this problem. You see you have this problem. You've been complaining about this problem. Let me help you with this problem. Their first initial response in their brain, whether they say it out loud or not, is to defend themselves or attack you. Well, what do you know? Well, you don't understand. I tried that. I love that. I've tried everything and you don't understand are my 2 favorite victim quotes, because I've tried everything is absolutely not true. It's absolutely not true. Number 2 is you don't understand is the height of ego. It's somebody being like, out of all the problems in the world, mine is more desperate or dire. And so it's more important. Therefore, you can't ask me to change. So that's step number 1. You have to understand that, because when you come to them and you try to give them that help, they're going to attack you. So this is how you negate this. Let's say it's a team member who, this is a very generic one. Let's say it's a team member who's late, and they've been late quite a bit. And you need to have that conversation with them. They're such a good team member in every other way, but they're always late. And we got to start our meetings on time. You go to them, and I want you to do 4 things. Number 1 is you want to first negate what they're going to say, because you already know what they're going to say. If you have any experience with this person whatsoever, you know that their main excuses are going to be somewhere in this realm. I'm going to make the most generic ones up for you. I had to drop my kid off at daycare. Traffic was bad. I got a late start, or I overslept. Let's just do those 3. If you know those are their go-tos, if you were just to go to them and say, hey, Diane, you need, I hope there's no Diane on here, but if you are, don't be offended. Hey, Diane, you've been late. We need you to get here on time, or we're going to have to make some other arrangements. And you know she's probably going to say, well, you don't understand. I had traffic and my husband was late to work and I had to drop the kids off at daycare. Cool. If you know that, then I'm going to start the conversation with number one. It's called what I don't want you to think. So you say, hey, Diane, I don't want you to think that I don't know you've got to drop the kids off at daycare. You have a long drive. There's a lot of traffic, whatever. I don't want you to think that I don't know that. Step two, what you do want her to understand. But I do need you to understand that we have to start our meetings at 8 o'clock. Step three, you're going to tell them how they need to think. I need you to think about how we need to start our day for our patients. If we're going to deliver our patients the best part of their patient's day, if that's one of our promises to them is to be the best part of our patient's day, we have to start our day on time, and we can't make it our patient's problem that we're late because you are. So number 4 is challenge. So I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to come into work 5 minutes early. You have to leave earlier. I know that. You got to arrange for the kids to be dropped off. I know that. But I'm going to challenge you. So that's a very quick understanding of the 4 steps that I use. I don't want you to understand. What I do need you to know, I don't want you to think, sorry. What I do need you to understand, how to think and challenge. And what this does is the very first top, and this is what's most important, is you are taking away what they can say is their reason. What are they going to do? If let's just say their challenge is that their excuse always is that they have a long drive. They have a longer drive than anybody else in the office. Heard that one before. Hey, Diane, I don't want you to think that I don't see that you have the longest drive out of anyone in the office, but I need you to be to work on time. She's not going to come back and go, yeah, but I have the longest drive in the office. You just said that. She can't use that. That's not her weapon. So the way to do a crucial conversation is you first have to acknowledge that you see the problem that you think they're going to bring up. Now, if you don't know the problem, the only thing you can do is let them come up with this new fandangled problem, which you probably know the problem is you say, I totally understand. Nevertheless, I need you to know or think and change their mind, tell them how to think, and then challenge them. It's the only difference here. If it's a brand new, never heard before, the only difference is you saying, totally understand. I got it. Nevertheless, this. I hope that helps, Jeannie. That was a long answer to your short question, but hopefully that helps somebody out there.
No, that was great. So I've got, I got one more. And part of this is because we don't often have a 5-time author on this series. And so obviously, in addition to your 5 books, which I'm sure contain this and tomes more of your wisdom for practices, but I know, when you're an author, you're also an avid reader typically. And so what books really, what book or books really inspired you and really changed your mindset?
This is one of my favorite questions because I am a terrible reader. I have dyslexia, so it's really hard for me to read. I love audiobooks. I'm so grateful to have audiobooks. I have libraries of audiobooks, and I'm buying them all the time. I have a lot I need to still be reading because I just collect them. Somebody will mention one, but like, oh, that was mine. So I mentioned in the program here, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks is one of my favorite books. I've read it probably 3 or 4 times now. I just got done reading it through for the second time this year. I posted about it recently on Facebook because it just really helps you understand how we as human beings all have what he calls upper limit problems, meaning there's going to be a moment, whether it be through money or business or relationships, where we hit this upper limit problem where we sabotage our success. So that's a really big one. When it comes to understanding people, though, there's actually a really cool book. There's 2 books by the same author, Robert Cialdini, which are Influence and Persuasion. They're actually marketed as marketing books, but I think they're incredible relationship books because you really get to understand how people work and how you can help persuade people, how you can help them want what you have, how you can get to know what's going on in their brain a little bit more. So those 3 books, and by the way, I think those 2 books, especially that Persuasion and Influence, every TC and every marketing director, if you're not reading those books, I actually don't think you're worthy of your job. And that's not to be mean or rude, but it's kind of like the cheat code to understanding. Forget the training on sales, forget the like lead everybody to a yes with nodding your head while you're talking and get them the what do they call them, the micro yeses. Totally not. The fourth book I'm gonna give you is my last one, which is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Awesome, awesome, awesome book. Again, just great insight into how human behavior works.
I love that. I love that. And in addition, just for everyone else, in terms of the stuff that I think really plays into this that I love also, and I'm sure you have read this and seen this, is a lot of Brene Brown's content,
Ah,
especially about vulnerability.
oh,
Her
geez.
writings on it, her TED Talk, that's an easy one to consume.
Dare to
And
lead.
just offering vulnerability first is the best
Yep.
way to get vulnerability and to bring down defenses. I was thinking about that throughout your talk, and so
Well,
it
I
sounds like you're a
appreciate that,
fan.
Oliver, because the reason why I tell that story about kissing is I didn't want to tell that story for a long time. I didn't forever talk about my parents' divorce and them fighting over it. But the more I did that, the more I would have people come up to me and be like, "Oh my gosh, I totally get that. I totally feel that," and it helped me be more, I guess, real and create relationships with people. So I appreciate you saying that.
That's awesome. So let me put up some important information. Of course, thanks for joining us today. We wanted to, as a thank you, offer you guys some amazing opportunities. If anyone on this call is interested in OrthoFi, Dino talked about some of the ways it can transform practices. You can find out, of course, more about OrthoFi at startmoresmiles.com. And you can schedule an overview with one of our team members, one of our consultants. But if you do and you complete an overview by the 7th of June, you can get $2,000 off of your setup fee. And the first 3 practices to do it will receive 50% off. So if you have ever thought about learning more about OrthoFi, there could not be a better time. And so with everything that's going on in the economy and flat and declining starts and significantly declining adult aligner starts, there's a lot of reasons to look into what we can do and a lot of ways that we can help that you may not have even thought of. So again, thanks everyone for joining. Have a great rest of your day and a fabulous weekend.